Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and staying safe during this time. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Like I said, thank you so much for checking me out. If you haven't done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button just right below the video. Cool, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks again for your support. I truly do appreciate having you here.
Why the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit is a lose-lose situation. So I mentioned in a previous video I did this past week, the Joseph Grunfest interview that he did with Tony from Thinking Crypto. Ultimately, he said, no matter how this turns out, we are going to be losers. According to his statement, it seems even if the SEC wins the battle, they could end up losing the war. And I think that that is becoming more and more apparent as we're seeing these decisions come down. The former SEC commissioner was one of the first people to criticize the decision to go forward with the XRP lawsuit. In fact, Grunfest had sent a letter to related commissioners before the complaint was filed eventually. Nevertheless, this move to sue Ripple Labs was quite unpopular, even among SEC officials. In this regard, Grunfest asserted, "It is hardly a secret I had questions about the judgment involved in bringing the lawsuit against XRP. I had questions about the timing, implications, and policy. Is this a matter that is best addressed from a social perspective by bringing a lawsuit, or saying, let's look at our regulations?" So he had warned at that time Chairman Jay Clayton about this, but they ignored his advice and they went along with a lawsuit anyway. Regardless of the winner, the lawsuit has a high probability that no matter who wins, gets us further away from a good situation. This is what he said. In fact, he criticized the XRP lawsuit not on the grounds of impropriety, but of judgment. He further added that if the SEC wins, we get a crazy regime where we'll try to fit square pegs in round holes, and that was the video clip that I showed you guys last week. If XRP wins, then arguably one of the very few cops we have on the beat winds up being weakened. No matter how it turns out, we're going to be losers, he concluded. Surprisingly, he even inquired, does this litigation really help us achieve any of these results? So there is a heavy burden. The aforementioned lawsuit could finish by August 26, 2022. That's per Jeremy Hogan's previous estimate, be it by settlement or court decision. When asked about the outcome, Grunfest explained why it will be a complicated issue regardless. And here's a quote. "A lot of public discourse is around the question of whether XRP is a security or not, but there are other issues here that I think are intellectually even more intriguing and may even be more outcome determinative." So the fair notice defense is one thing, and is XRP a security? Is it not a security? That question, I think, is, I agree with Joseph Grunfest, obviously. It's not just about that. This is a bigger picture situation that I think could, I know will have a huge implication on the rest of the cryptocurrency market in the United States. I've always held that position. And I think, as more and more of this information is coming out, we are getting a better picture of how that is going to look. So, what is this going to look like? Brad Garlinghouse also tweeting out, if you weren't paying attention, then you should be now. Huge win for Ripple today, and he posted this at about 3 p.m. yesterday, retweeting out Stuart Alderoti's tweet here. Today's order makes it clear there's a serious question whether the SEC ever provided Ripple with fair notice that its distributions of XRP since 2013 would ever be prohibited under the securities law. So let's just go back to Brad Garlinghouse's tweet thread here, and while we would have preferred the cases against Chris and me to end now, the SEC must now prove its claims. We are confident that ultimately all of them will be dismissed. So there are a few things about this case. There are the Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson suits, the separate lawsuits that were filed against them that I'm going to touch on briefly. And then there's also the manipulation of price of XRP, which I will talk about too a little bit. The judge denies SEC's motion to strike Ripple's fair notice defense. This is a huge win for the XRP community as well. That from XRP Crypto Wolf. Tag XRP down here saying congrats. Brad Garlinghouse. I have not purchased any shares of Ripple, so I don't have any financial interest in Ripple, but I may have to scoop up some investment contracts soon. In the meantime, I continue to use my decentralized XRP as a bridge currency. So we're getting a lot of congratulatory remarks here from Jungle Inc., DJ Peter Vass, XRP Rose, Tony Edward from Thinking Crypto, and many more. XRP Crow, Bank XRP. A lot of people in the XRP community realizing that this is big news. And I mean, even though, and I know, okay, so back to the price, because we thought, okay, fair notice, that is the biggie, that is what's going to really change things, and I know we initially saw that price pump. Again, though, this is only a small microcosm of what is to come, guys, because we're still not out of the woods yet. This is another step in the right direction, but there is still work to do, and this is why I'm not too concerned that it did pop to 85 cents and now it's right back down to about 78.5 cents, because I know the momentum will continue once we get a more solid verdict. Good to see the judge rejecting the SEC's attempt to prevent Ripple from pursuing its fair notice defense. It's even more imperative that the sun sets on the SEC's regulation by enforcement approach. This coming from Stuart Alderati. I know I'm jumping around from tweet thread to tweet thread, but just going back to his tweet thread there, wanted to mention that because that is important. Regulation by enforcement, the SEC's actions, as per Joseph Grunfest here saying it is a lose-lose situation, and I think we are starting to see the beginnings of that. So, also saw this from Tim R614 on Twitter. Fox Business also making a note of the Ripple SEC development. We've got Charles Gasparino and Liz Klayman talking about it. Listen to this.
Between the Securities and Exchange Commission and Ripple. Joining us now with the latest is Charlie Gasparino.
Okay, so I believe I've got my hands around this. Some of the stuff gets a little technical, but as part of the case, so SEC sues Ripple saying it used XRP as a security and it should have registered. Thus,
therefore, it's not a currency.
And therefore, no exchange will take it. You can't, your value goes down dramatically. And but Ripple has said that the SEC did this out of the blue, and they filed a motion to have the case dismissed because the SEC didn't give it fair warning that that XRP was considered a security. Okay, bear with me here. The SEC filed a motion to get that motion dismissed. The judge said no, that motion could stay. He still has to rule on the motion of fair notice, that whether or not Ripple was given fair notice. Now, if the SEC loses the motion, and then it obviously did today loses the motion and get it thrown out, it has to lose the motion. If it loses the motion that it did not give fair notice, this case probably is over. And that's why you see it. There's a greater likelihood this case could get thrown out based on this ruling, and that's what you're seeing right now. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying when you unpack all this, the motion to get this case dismissed filed by Ripple is the way I understand it, because the SEC didn't give it fair notice while it was issuing that XRP, that it was an illegal issuance of that XRP, sale of that XRP, I should say. That can stay, and there is still a chance the judge can rule in Ripple's favor, saying that USEC screwed up by not giving it fair notice. This case is out, Ripple wins. I mean, that's the bet you're seeing now. That's why it's popping.
And by the way, Bitcoin is down 2.6% today. You've got Ethereum down, Ethereum's down, but XRP is moving on this.
Now, here's the thing. We got a couple of things here. Ripple tells Fox Business they believe the motion will lead to all SEC claims ultimately being dismissed.
Well, that could be wishful thinking, but I get it.
Well, I get it. I mean, it's kind of what I'm telling you. We have John Deaton, who's one of the private securities lawyer.
So that is clip 1 of 2, courtesy of Tim here on Twitter. Charles Gasparino talking about a few things, basically giving us some oversight with regards to the lawsuit and giving us some possible outcomes that even Ripple noted. The fact that this could actually lead to all of the SEC's arguments being thrown out. Liz Clayman, if you guys did hear, did say that could be wishful thinking and it probably won't happen. And even Charles Gasparino saying, I'm not saying this is a likely scenario, but it is certainly on the table. There's also the fact that this could end in a settlement or that this case could just get thrown out altogether. Let me bring you guys part 2. It's only another 43 seconds. Listen to this.
Private securities lawyers that is aiding Ripple in the case because he's an XRP holder. It's pretty. John doesn't doesn't BS. Okay, he calls it kind of straight. As big a win as this is for Ripple, it's even a bigger loss for the SEC. I think it kind of is because the judge is saying there's some reasonable grounds that you didn't give them a fair notice. So we're going to keep it in there and I'll decide on it. So just keep in mind, I don't tell people to buy anything based on this, but net, it's a good ruling for the XRP holders and for Ripple. So just keep that in mind. Let's go to pivot a little bit to...
Gonna stop the clip there. Charles Gasparino there pivoting to another story. So ultimately, for XRP hodlers, this is a good thing. John Deaton, as you heard there in that clip, chimes in saying this is a bad day for the SEC. At this point, it sounds as though their goose is cooked. And Wrath of Kahneman jumping in, giving his 2 cents on the case. Ripple will be allowed to argue its case as the SEC's motion to strike fair notice defense is denied. Has the judge underscored some interesting points that may play out later? He's saying, I'm no lawyer, but seems like there are 2 important footnotes. First, the SEC originally asked the judge to consider 72 other prior enforcements and draw conclusions about their similarities to Ripple. The judge flatly said no. So think about that for a second. 72 other prior enforcements, and the judge said no. Those do not have anything to do with what we're talking about now. It's only for striking fair notice, but seems significant that the judge wants to hear the unique merits of Ripple's defense. And so he's attached a screen grab to this tweet and highlighted this point here. Moreover, to the extent that the SEC's request that the court parse each of these filings to determine the underlying facts and legal basis for the enforcement actions and draw conclusions that they are similar to the enforcement action taken against Ripple, the court declines to do so. Ripple disputes the SEC's interpretation of these filings. He also gives a second point here. As mentioned per Jeremy Hogan, I believe the judge asserts a fair notice defense is objective, meaning companies don't need a formal warning. They should know the objective standards ahead of time. The case will argue if there is a clear objective standard violated. And so just to that point, the court, however, notes that the evaluation of any fair notice defense is objective. It does not require inquiry into whether a particular party actually received a warning that alerted him or her to the danger of being held to account for the behavior in question. So that is a little dicey because what he's saying here, and I believe I read it in another tweet Wrath of Kahneman posted, he essentially likens it to if you rob a bank and the police arrest you and you say, well, I didn't know it was illegal to rob a bank. Well, that goes against common logic. Of course, we all know it is illegal to rob a bank. But Ripple's defense suggests that, despite how many times they came and asked the SEC, is this fair? Is this legal? Is what we're doing right? The SEC ultimately refused to answer their question, and so this is why we're going to see this play out a little differently, or likely going to play out a little differently. Wrath of Kahneman also brings up the Brad and Chris motions to dismiss, and that was denied. There seem to be 2 points of emphasis here. Because it is civil, the SEC doesn't need to show willfulness of their violation. The judge is ruling that their XRP sales are domestic, not foreign sales originating from U.S. accounts. Again, he says down here, I think we see the issue of objective standards arise, but regardless, their defenses will still hinge on whether Ripple was in violation of selling a security to a large degree. They will have to see the whole thing through. John Deaton also chiming in just on the Brad and Chris lawsuits specifically. The motions to dismiss were on technical grounds pursuant to Rule 12b-6, failure to state a claim. It was filed a year ago. The judge assumes the allegations made in the complainant are true when deciding this motion. This was expected. It's not based on the merits or the facts. Dr. Giggles asking down here, is an appeal possible here? And John Deaton saying no. The only surprise about this ruling is that it took so long, and it's 31 pages long. So just some more insight on the Chris and Brad parts of this. I mean, that really doesn't affect us as XRP hodlers. I know we are more focused on the, I think by and large, we are more focused on the overall lawsuit. Is XRP a security? And even that is still just a small part of it. How is this going to affect cryptocurrency regulatory clarity moving forward? Well, there's also this, guys, I saw from Michael at Val5 Links. Ripple moves to strike rebuttal report on XRP price manipulation. So, what we are seeing now, XRP price obviously moving up based on what we saw, based on the verdict that we heard from the court yesterday. But, you know, it wasn't a sustained growth. All right, even though it went up over 16%, since its top, it has declined about 7%. So losing about half, almost half of what it saw. But there are experts in this case that are trying to prove otherwise. So let me just get to this. Ripple moves to strike rebuttal report on XRP price manipulation. So Ripple has moved to strike an impermissible rebuttal report written by securities and finance expert Albert Metz. Metz, who has worked for the U.S. Department of Justice, submitted his original report on October 4th. He conducted an event study in order to determine whether or not Ripple was able to manipulate the price of the XRP token with its announcements. He came to the conclusion that certain news and public statements did influence the token's performance. Alan Farrell, however, professor of securities law at Harvard Law School, argued that XRP was moving in tandem with the broader market. Metz submitted the first rebuttal report in November in response to the defendant's expert. So Dr. Metz, an expert for the SEC, was obviously trying to prove that XRP price was moving based on news, and, unfortunately, or maybe ironically, this may be an example of that. However, I would say that, this is, although we did see price move based on what we heard, we are also seeing just as clearly the price coming right back down. So, not sustained momentum. But let me get back to this. So Metz was the SEC's expert, and Alan Farrell saying no, XRP ultimately moves in tandem with the rest of the market. The most recent one is based on counterfactual analysis, aiming to determine the token's expected returns without Ripple's involvement. Its purpose is to quantify the economic significance of the company's public announcements. The defendant argues that the new vision of the initial rebuttal report doesn't contain any error corrections. Instead, it aims to attack the conclusions made by Dr. M. Laurentius Murray and Professor Daniel Fishel, Ripple's rebuttal report, who claim that Ripple's announcements only accounted for a modest portion of the token's volatile price movements. And so, to my point there, moderately volatile, again, a 17% move up. You compare that to the March 2020 decline in price when all broader markets were moving down. Well, we saw XRP crash along with other cryptocurrencies at that point in time. Jeremy Hogan also chiming in on this expert report and just giving us a tweet thread, how to analyze an expert report. Lawyering 101, read the plaintiff's expert report. Fail. Number 2, read the defendant's expert report. Fail. Number 3, realize you do not understand them. If you are the defendant, that is good, because it is the plaintiff who has the burden of proof. He goes on to say, Ripple has attacked my favorite issue in the case, whether anything Ripple does as a business substantively affects the price of XRP. Ripple's experts did such a good job at tearing up the SEC's expert that the SEC's expert tried to slip in a belated amendment to his report. This is what has been going on behind the scenes for the last 3 months. What we are seeing here are just 2 of the battling experts. Apparently there are 16. So, I mean, if this is any indication of where the case is going, again, let's not forget, Ripple has had a solid case from the beginning, and I'm sure they've sourced very, very good experts on all these matters. In this example specifically, they're talking about XRP price, volatility, and if it is moving on Ripple news. Clearly, we can see the logic behind this too, right? XRP price token, and this can be proven just based on, looking at the chart. And just as I was mentioning today, yes, price movement, but not sustained. Zooming out on the XRP chart, and we go back to March 2020, looking at where we were at that point in time, and, beer flu pandemic, locking down economies. You can see, and you can correlate this to other markets as well. You can see, although XRP did rise 16% just yesterday, this decline was more than 67% running in tandem with broader markets. So, Jeremy Hogan just highlighting that for us. Again, he says there are 16 experts. Always remember that if the experts battle to a tie, the defendant wins every time. So that's another thing that is good for Ripple. And I don't mean to downplay the importance of these reports. They are likely the only evidence of one of the prongs of the Howey test, the expectations of profit from the efforts of others' part. And so they are vital to the case. So the expert reports obviously going to play a big part in this. And again, this is just one that we're hearing here about the price manipulation or price volatility of XRP. So wanted to thank Jeremy Hogan, Michael, John Deaton, Wrath of Kahneman, Tim. I forgot to thank everybody. Stuart Alvarado, of course, Brad Garlinghouse. I mentioned John Deaton and Coining 203. Finally, guys, Micah Paul XRP. Do you guys smell that? If you're an XRP holder, then go outside and tell me that you smell that, because I smell an MF and settlement, baby. I'd love to be a fly on the wall right now. So, what are the outcome possibilities? A settlement. The judge could dismiss the case altogether. Ultimately, though, we have Joseph Grunfest saying, this is a lose-lose situation for the SEC. Just gonna go down here real quick. Michael Paul saying, I think they filed the lawsuit knowing they would not win, and that's why they filed it right before the 2021 bull run. This was always about slowing Ripple down. Ashley responding, actually, from the looks of it, more like to drop the case. Ripple's not going to be paying for anything they didn't do wrong. I'm sure Gary's gonna want a settlement. I think that's true. I think the SEC will likely want to get out of this nightmare sooner rather than later. So whether it is a dismissal of the case, whether it is a settlement that ensues because of the SEC. And we gotta remember, if a settlement does happen because the SEC wants to bring it to the table, that means Ripple has the leverage, and that would likely mean that Ripple would have better conditions on that settlement. Let's also not forget, as per Charles Gasparino here, he was mentioning that Ripple could also want all the charges from the SEC being dismissed. That could be a possibility.
I'm your guy. I will keep you posted. I'm your advocate. I'll be back on a daily basis, usually multiple times per day, with these videos to keep you updated with everything going on. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't done so, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Feel free to share any of my videos with your friends, family, social media, or anybody who may care to listen. Thanks so much for your continued support. I'm always here for you. I want to help you through this time. So thank you so much for continuing to choose me. Enjoy your day, stay safe, and I'll catch you again probably in a couple hours. Thanks, everybody. See you later.